called out the SWAT team, so I was preoccupied. So we'll kind of do this part, and then we'll figure out when we're going to do the second part. Okay. Is there still going to be children in the building? Okay.
They're all gone.
Okay. As we go through this training, there's going to be some videos that some of you may find offensive. There will be language you may find offensive. I'll probably cuss, which probably will offend someone. However, number one, I'm used to teaching cops, okay? And number two, this is the real world. This is what we're dealing with in an active shooter event, okay? So, as we go through this, if you need to use the bathroom, go use the bathroom. If you need the phone, use the phone. Obviously, if you need food, get food. And we'll just go along. I will use a lot of humor simply because this is a horrible subject to teach on. And you can choose to laugh or you can choose to cry. I always choose to laugh. Just keep in mind that some of these videos and incidents we're talking about are real life. People have lost their lives. But by no means am I making fun of these folks. It's just my way of handling this, okay? So the Alice program was actually started in the very late 1990s, early 2000s by an officer by the name of Greg Crane, who was a SWAT operator out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he and several of his buddies were at a wake for a law enforcement officer that died, and they were discussing school shootings. Greg had the unique side note that his wife is actually an elementary school principal. So he asked her, what do you do if something like this would happen? And she gave him the standard answer. We go into lockdown and wait on the cops. And he knew that that wasn't good enough. So between him and several of the other SWAT guys, they developed the Alice program. You have to keep in mind, this is right after Columbine took place. This is right after the school shooting in Arkansas that took place actually 6 months prior to Columbine. So that's where this program came from. As we go through this, you're going to hear me talk about survival, okay? Because that's what we're doing. We're under attack, okay? Kind of all the rules are going to go out the window. We want to survive, and then we'll worry about accountability afterwards. So we go through this, you think about mass shootings and active shooter events. You know, what are some of the events that come to mind? I just mentioned one. Come on, folks, we're having snacks, but we got to wake up here.
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
Mall shootings.
Mall shootings. I mean, you can't go anywhere anymore, right?
Right.
Okay. When we think about this, Columbine's usually the one that stands out. Okay. And I think that's because news media. You know, 1999, the internet was coming around, CNN, ONN. C-SPAN, everybody, 24-hour news coverage. But one of the worst school massacres took place in 1927 in Bath, Michigan. Okay, there was a disgruntled former school treasurer who was upset that they built a new school. So each day as they were building the school, when his workers left, he went and planted dynamite in the new build.
Oh, man.
And on the first day of school, after he killed all of his family members and all of his livestock, he went to school and blew up the school. Killing 45 kids, injuring like 12 more. Okay? So it's not such a new phenomenon. I think it's just so much in our face. Okay? But having that all in mind, law enforcement's got their response down to 3 to 5 minutes. And since we started teaching this program about 3 years ago, we've actually knocked about 2 minutes off of it. You go, wow, that's good, 3 to 5 minutes, right? And we've knocked our response time down because unfortunately it's happening more often, and we're getting better and changing our strategies of response. But what can take place in 3 to 5 minutes? Yeah, Sandy Hook Elementary was 3.5 minutes, 26 lives. Virginia Tech, roughly 8.5 minutes, 33 lives. 3 to 5 minutes is a long time when you're in that moment, right? What happens before that 3 to 5 minutes? That's only when law enforcement gets the call, and it takes us 3 to 5 minutes to respond. There's actually roughly another 4 to 6 minutes before anybody calls. Okay? And there's a difference of opinion as why people don't call right away. One is apathy. Somebody else is going to call. Somebody else is going to take care of that. Or is that a kid upset, just slammed a door, slammed a locker, slammed a desk, slammed a book? Is that the maintenance department finally fixing something? Right? So now we're taking that 4 to 6 minutes and adding to this where we're at. We're at like 7 to 11 minutes before law enforcement's on scene. They last 12 minutes, folks, on average, 12 minutes. It's over before I get there. Okay? That's why we have to have this training. All right? It's not for me, it's for you. You're the ones that are going to be in it, not me. Just some stats from the FBI. And you can see I haven't updated them yet. Usually when you get stats from the FBI, they run about a year behind, simply because if I get shot in March and I don't die until January the next year, they have to go back and add that to that stats. Okay? But basically, we're up to about 1 per month. Actually, I think it's 1.34 per month. Almost 16 incidents a year now. Okay? So it's not a matter of, oh, is it going to happen? It's just going to be, where is it going to happen? Because they're happening. As we go through this, don't think like an administrator. Don't think like a cop. Okay? You just got to think like somebody wants to survive, right? You're under attack. And we talk about command, control, and convenience. Okay, that's not our first priority. And there's that word again, survival. We need to survive. You know, I like to throw in there, I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. Okay, let me survive this event, then we'll deal with whatever I did to survive afterwards. Of course, I'm not talking about throwing kids out for sacrifice. So, I just got to put that out there, okay?
We can cross that off.
Yeah, yeah. Where did you first learn about fire and fire safety? Where at? School. School. And what did school do? Or actually, what did the fire department do? Because I make a lot of fun of firemen, okay?
They came and brought the little fake house, and it had the little fake smoke in it.
They get a whole stinking week to fire safety, right? A whole week. And what do? They bring in usually the biggest, ugliest, smelliest firefighter they can find, which isn't too hard. Okay? It's truthful though, right? And they put it. My best friend's a fireman. That's what makes it even better. And they put them in their turnout gear, right? They put them in the gear that they're going to show up into to respond to a fire, and they let these little kids crawl all over them, right? And they let them go out and play with their fire equipment. It's to take that fear away, because if they do respond, that's what they're going to look like, right? They're not going to look like a guy wearing the blue pants and a nice sweatshirt and stuff. So they do that to take that fear away. And then they leave them with like a saying. What saying do they leave these kids with?
Stop, drop, and roll.
Stop, drop, and roll. Okay? So the fire department's gotten way out in front of us on this. Where did you learn about tornado safety? School. What's that? Go sit in the hallway, put your head between your knees, poke your buddy sitting next to you with your finger, because everybody, you know. Is anybody old enough to remember the nuclear fallout drills? What did they tell you to do?
Get under a desk, tuck your head.
What?
Kick your butt. Goodbye.
all that did was create a nice collection point in case somebody pushed the red button, right? That desk was going to do nothing for you. Okay, but we still had those drills. And it's unfortunate, but finally we're getting around to active shooter violent intruder attacks. Okay? We changed the title from active shooter to violent intruder because they don't necessarily have to have a gun. Okay, I don't want people to be so focused that they have a gun, because we've had attacks with knives, machetes, baseball bats. Okay, all of that is a violent intruder, right? So, usually before I go into this segment, is there anybody here certified in lockdown? Have a state or a national certification in lockdown? That's fantastic, because there is no certification in lockdown, folks. Okay? I'm still waiting on that one person to give me that answer. Okay, where'd it come from?
Prison?
Prisons. If it's good enough for prisoners, it's good enough for our kids, right? It started in prisons, okay? And right from the dictionary, we get those words: control, convenience, and command, okay? Makes sense in prisons. If they're fighting in cell block A, we want to lock them down so it doesn't spread to B, C, D, and E. Makes sense, right? If there's somebody in this building with us with a gun or a machete, do we want to be locked in with them? That part doesn't make sense. They most recently added the second definition there as a security measure. And again, the problem I have is preventing anybody from leaving or entering. Why? If they're in here, we don't need to be, right? We need to get out. Now there's a spot for lockdown. You know, if the sheriff's office day of patrol's chasing somebody out here on the road and they crash and they bail out on foot, yeah, let's lock the building down because we don't want them getting into us, right? That makes sense. Somebody gets hurt in the gym and we need to get the fire and EMS in here. Let's keep the kids in their classrooms. Let's lock them down so the firemen don't have to deal with kids in the hallway when they're going to treat Johnny or Susie. That all makes sense. A man in a building with a gun, I ain't sticking around, folks. I'm leaving. Okay? We don't need to be hanging out here. Then what do cops tell their own kids? Get out. You know, when I took my CERT class, I was in the front row. Not because I'm studious like these folks. This one, I was like you three. I was late, and that was the only seats left.
Pretty much is.
But they're asking this question, and by show of hands, we're putting our hands up. Well, little did I know, everybody behind me is putting their stinking hand down, so I get stuck. And they said, Gus, what do you tell your kids? I said, well, you know, my two oldest ones, they're 15 and 16. They're both athletes. They're, run. Get out of the building. You run until you can't run anymore, then run some more and call me and tell me you're safe. My youngest at the time was 6. They said, what do you tell her? Listen to the teacher. They said, what, you don't love her as much as you do the older kids? You don't leave her there to be slaughtered? What can a 6-year-old do? Sandy Hook Elementary, he mentioned it. Remember the story of the little boy who ran in the classroom and grabbed 5 of his buddies and ran out of a victim classroom? Never got harmed. Ran across the street and into a garage. Right by the shooter. If I'm focused on him, and I'm going to pick on you, am I paying attention to what you people are doing? Could you run out of the classroom without me attacking you? Absolutely. What are 6-year-olds good at? Screaming, running, throwing things, breaking stuff. I mean, this program was designed for a 6-year-old, right?
Your kids would be awesome.
Somebody shows up in this building with a gun. Why are they here? They're not here to rob the place, are they? They're here to get the new high score, right?
Or to give us Alice training.
Or to give you Alice training, yeah. But I already told you, law enforcement, it's going to be over before I get there, right? I can't guarantee you help. It's not because I don't want to help. It's not because I don't want to do my job or any of the other guys in law enforcement or gals don't want to do their jobs. We're not there. I've been doing this job for well over 20 years, and to tell you when you need me the most, I'm not going to be there sucks. That's the truth. We're the second largest county in the state of Ohio by area. If I'm in Utica and you need me here, how quick am I going to get here? Running 100 miles an hour is 20 minutes, right? But right after Columbine, it was nothing but cops training. Every school was begging us to come into their school and train so we could learn the school and learn their safety plans. That's great. But it's going to be over when we get there. So finally, we're around to training the people we need to train, and that's you folks. You're in the moment. You're there. Right? The single strategy, that's just your plain Jane lockdown. We already talked about it. It doesn't work for everything, right? And the active shooter hit and kill rates, they're really, really high for the active shooters. Anybody want to guess why?
Because it's so close.
Close range. Anything else? A lot of people.
Sitting, not doing anything.
Passive resistance. And a lot of targets. Right? Joe at Virginia Tech. He had 1 hour of range time. 1 hour on a range. He rented it. He was the only one on it. He took all of his targets and laid them on the ground. And for 1 hour, walked back and forth shooting paper laying on the ground. What was he practicing for?
People talking and
Shooting people locked down.
People in lockdown. He knew exactly what they were going to do. Right? Cops hit and kill rates are much lower. Okay? We're responding not because we're worse shots. but we're responsible for everything that comes out of the end of our gun. If she's the bad guy or gal, and I come in and bang, 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 I shoot her and save everybody else, but in the meantime I shoot him, and her, are they going to talk about how Gus from the sheriff's office came in and saved everybody? No, they're going to be handing me a prison ID because I just killed 3 innocent people, right? We are much more discretionary because we're responsible for our target and everything beyond it. Also, if I'm shooting at them, they're probably doing what? Shooting back or doing something. They're not laying on the ground waiting to be shot. We talk about the RAD training or airline passengers or stranger danger. Are those passive responses? What's stranger danger? What do you tell the kids? Scream, yell, draw as much attention to you as you can. Airline passengers. Is anyone going to hijack an airliner with a box cutter again? Hell no. We've already proven that. The guy in seat 7C starts acting froggy, about 8 people pile on him, beat the crap out of him, and we land at the next airport, right? Because nobody's going to be, they're not going to take my jet with a box cutter again. That apathy's gone, right? So we no longer need to have a passive response. There's several videos. This is one of them that bothers me the most.
Walk down, walk down. During an intruder alert, be sure to shut the blinds. Remember to stay quiet. Shut and lock the doors. Move to the wall farthest away from any windows or doors. And turn off the lights. Now you are safe from any intruder.
You laugh, but that's what we're teaching the kids, right? That's what we're teaching them. We're teaching them to be good at the wrong thing. That pulled off of the internet. It was like an 8th grade audiovisual class project, and they posted it on YouTube, which I don't have any problem with that. But are they really safe? Let's back up a minute. Turning off the lights. Where's the light switch on there? Basically every room you ever came into. Okay. Or in this eco-friendly world, they have these sensors now where you walk in, the lights come on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're wasting time turning the lights off. Why are we drawing the blinds? Where's the guy at? Is he inside or outside?
Inside.
Okay. Who's outside trying to look in and see what's going on?
Police.
So why are we blinding the law enforcement? So we're going to draw all the blinds so when they're on the outside and they're at least looking in through the windows, they can't see anything. Okay, so I have 2 problems there. Okay? And then of course that false sense of security. Okay? There's our responses to fear. And everybody's probably familiar with the fight or the flight. How many of you are familiar with freeze? Really? You got it locked up? Well, if you're not familiar with freeze, go back to when you were a kid and went to a haunted house. And you're walking through the haunted house and somehow you got in the front of the group and the Oogie Boogie Man jumps out. Ah! That person in the front of the room goes, ah! And just locks up, physically locks up. That's freeze. Okay, it's a natural response. How easy is it to unlock somebody? It's actually very, very easy. Usually somebody in the back of that same group starts shoving, going, go, 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 boom. They're unlocked, right? Okay? If somebody freezes and you start an action, usually it clicks. Oh, this is what I need to be doing. You don't have to smack them. You don't have to physically put hands on them. They usually just snap out of it. Okay? As we look at these, and it's not going to be today, but when we schedule our hands-on, you guys are, somebody in this group is going to do every one of those. Okay? And the surprising thing is, what'd you say you're going to be, ma'am?
I'm a flight. I always run.
I guarantee you, if the stuff goes down, I probably want to be in your room. Because you're going to turn into a ninja. It is the way it happens. Usually we do the PowerPoint, then we take a small break, and then we go into the hands-on, and they always catch me. Okay. When it happens, they turn into a ninja. They start beating the crap out of people because you don't know what you're going to do till you're in that moment. And everybody usually gravitates to the football coach or the wrestling coach, you know. I've seen them freeze more than anybody, okay? It's usually a female, and I don't know if it's that mother-hen mentality or what, but I'm telling you what, I caught a group up in Johnstown, and it was all 32 women, elementary school teachers. I'd have taken any one of them in a fight, because I'm telling you, they were warriors, and it's a mindset, okay?
Yeah.
But we will get to see this when we go into the hands-on with you folks. You will be surprised. Which one looks like a lockdown? We're doing the work for them. We're freezing. I call lockdown hope phase. I hope the cops get here before the bad guy, because that's all you're doing. You go in a corner and you wait. You're hoping. Let's see what we see on this video.
Secular.
Everybody in this room.
I think a woman cussed after him.
Because we're in the city.
Well, watch, I think a woman does.
Can we talk for a minute? Just other than person. May I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? John, yeah. You see, our benefits is right. See what I'm saying?
Please explain to us, sir. Please explain to us.
I'm not sure where she worked.
We'll talk to you on the. Hey, listen, look, I'm a good guy. I've got a lot for my wife and family. I don't need to die. In the school board here, we just try to do what's best for children. I've been in the system, I was just 11 and a half years. I've got a great wife, I've been married for 4 years. I've got 2 great boys. Just, please, just talk to us. If I can help you get your wife a job somewhere else, I'll be glad. Come here. Come here.
kill us or whatever. At least let us know what's going on. Because I'll be very honest with you. I swear, I don't know who your wife is or what she did. I don't. I don't want to die like anybody else does.
Mr. West got signed papers, I'm sure, but he doesn't know her.
I'm just asking, what does she do? Was she a teacher? Was she a professional? Was she work in the classroom? Was she work in the cafeteria? Was she a bus driver? I don't know.
Hey, I will go with you. I will stand up with you, get your wife a job, whatever it takes. Hey, these other four guys.
Listen, I'm the one that signed the paper, right? Okay. I don't remember and I don't know who she is. But let them go. I'm the one that paid. I mean, they don't sign the papers. I'm the only one that signed. Will you let them go? I mean, but you're obviously upset me. So why are they here? Part of what? Sir, I don't know what you read.
It's not taxes. You said we don't need no taxes.
No, the
Plenty of
thing
money. Then as soon as you cut the school system, then you turn around and said, oh, now we just have success testing.
I said we need to have success tests in the very beginning. I said I campaigned on that. Well, yes, I did. You can look up the material. I said from the beginning, we have success taxes in the most equitable way because everybody pays it, not just property owners. Look, see, here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want anybody to, just listen to me for a minute. I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I've got a feeling that what you want is the cops come in and kill you because you're mad. Because you said you're going to die. But why? If this isn't worth it. This is a problem. Please.
I think it's, he had caps, Mike. That's what he wanted right there, Mike. That's what I was trying to talk to him. I'm fine.
All right, so what responses did we see? Did we see flight?
Yep.
Wasn't too many people arguing. He said, hey, everybody in here but you 6 a-holes can leave. There wasn't anybody really volunteering to stick around, was there? Now, if you're ever in that situation, ladies, screw your pocketbooks, okay? Pocketbooks, get out. You can come back for that stuff, I assure you, okay? Don't stick around. That amazed me, okay? Did we see fight? Everybody chuckles at that old gal, don't they? Old Ginger.
She was out. She should have kept going.
She should have, but when she came back in, did she create an opportunity?
She did.
Absolutely she did.
That was good. Nobody else did
She took her pocketbook, tried to whack him a couple times, and those 6 guys on that panel just sat there like bumps on a wall.
I know, that was crazy.
Okay, they did nothing. They just sat there. I mean, he turned his back. He's looking at her, right? Gabby Gifford shooting in Arizona. Who stopped that? Who saved Gabby Gifford's life? News media credits her aid, which he did. He contributed, certainly. He medically treated her. But who stopped the attack? I think it was Ginger's sister, because it was like a 70-year-old female with a pocketbook started beating the crap out of the dude. And a 75-year-old retired lieutenant colonel from the Army who'd already been shot twice in the attack stepped up and took the guy down. Now, there was a guy there with a concealed carry, but he did the right thing. He never pulled his weapon. Because what happens when the cop shows up, he's standing there with a gun. Okay? So, Ginger created, I mean, she's a ninja. She created something to happen, right? Did we see freeze? Multiple and multiple times. Hell, he started shooting. He'd already shot like 3 times, and the one guy's still sitting there in his chair. He's just like mummified. Then he finally just kind of all over. That was not caps. Okay? If we slow that down, his first shot hit a binder on the desk right in front of that first guy. And then you'll see the paper fray. He never got hit. Okay? That guy's name was Clay, and he made a very profound statement right at the beginning. What did he say?
I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna die. 86% of the time, folks, they're gonna die. Whether it's at somebody else's hands or 46% of the time they're gonna take their own lives. They've already made that decision. Most of them will tape extra ammo to their bodies or tape knives to their bodies because they're saving that single bullet to kill themselves. Okay? So all of the negotiation, we definitely knew that in the school board meeting. Wasn't that all political? You know, let's talk here, sir. I'm holding a gun in your face. So I think talking's done. Okay? Then we found out who was in charge of the school transportation, right? The guy that said, Mr. Husfeld's the one that signed the papers. Shoot him. So he had his attention so divided, he kept turning around and looking. What was he looking for? He was looking for the cops. Now the guy that came in and he said, oh, I'm just a school safety officer, he actually was a law enforcement officer. Okay, but he was only carrying a 2-inch firearm, a little off-duty 5-shot gun, which that was going to be an incredibly long shot for that 2-inch gun. So he left, went to his car, came back with a pistol, a bigger pistol, and shot him. Okay? But he didn't kill him. I cut off the part where Clay lifts up and shoots himself in the head. He was hell-bent on dying, and that's what they will do. Okay? So, but we just seen all 3 of our responses.
That was real?
Absolutely, that was real. Of the school board shooting in Florida.
How did they know to tape it?
They taped all their, most school board and trustee meetings and stuff like that, they videotaped. Yes, ma'am.
I guess my question was, like, the school board, like, why, I guess we can't question why, because they didn't know what they were going to say, but, like, I just felt like they were lengthening the talking to him. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you lie and say that his wife didn't go to that school, or... You know what I mean? Like,
I understand. I mean, they were
she
doing
wasn't employed at that school.
They were doing a little verbal judo there. You know, they were fighting about what they campaigned on and the taxes.
Like the words were just like big words that he probably didn't understand. Like clearly had mental health issues.
Yeah, he had mental health issues. He'd been to prison multiple times.
Right.
You know, he knew what his intentions were. I don't know. I've had a lot of people. You know, one lady was adamant that they did a fantastic job debating him. I said, this is like did he still try to shoot and kill people? Okay, all we did was prevent the, you know, prolong the inevitable.
Yeah, but don't you think in that situation that they were hoping that if they got more time, the police would come? I mean, somebody had called the police, obviously.
Absolutely.
So rather than just sit there, don't you want to maybe get the guy going in a conversation? And
that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, and I can't speak. I mean, 86% of the time is a pretty high number, but I guess there's always that 14% that, hey, he's just going to lay down his gun and give it up. I don't know. Okay? What I would have liked to have seen is, one, when Ginger attacked him, why those 6 guys bum rushing? Okay? Or when he kept turning around, there's a door on either end of that panel. It's 3 and 3. Split and take off. Okay? Because we'll get into it here in a little bit when we start talking about countering, but hitting a moving target is pretty hard. Okay? I mean, he missed a guy from 3 feet away standing right in front of him. Right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 sides to everything. I mean, I certainly understand what you're saying, but there's definitely 2 sides to it. This is a layout of Columbine High School. And typically I play about a 5.5-minute audio clip of a teacher by the name of Patty Nielsen who was shot in the initial attack. And she runs and hides in the library. She hides in the library with 52 students. It's a 911 call. All but the last 10 to 12 seconds of the 911 call, Klebold and Harris are in the extreme right hallway on this slide. And they're outside of the library. And Patty's telling all the students what they were taught in 1999 was, get on the ground and be quiet. And if you've ever seen the video from the library, Klebold and Harris make entry, and they walk around and randomly shoot and kill 10 kids. I mean, they may speak to her and shoot him, let those 2 go. There was no rhyme or reason to what they were doing, okay? But the one thing that happened was, for 5 minutes and 30 seconds while they're in the hallway, everybody's in this library not doing anything. When they make entry, and the teacher is no longer telling him to get on the ground because Patty crawled in the closet, okay, to preserve her life, which she'd already been shot in the beginning. These yellow dots are the students fleeing out that door that's been there the entire time, straight to the outside. So my question is, why do we have to wait for them to come and attack us before we can leave? Did anything say we have to stick around? No. Okay. Don't be the movies, you hear a gunshot in the hallway and go, oh, I gotta go see if that was a gunshot. Okay? If you hear something going on in the front of this building and you have access to get out of the building, get out of the building. It's that simple. Okay? Common sense should take over, right? Virginia Tech. I mentioned there was a total of 33 lives lost. 2 took place at dormitories before he even attacked Norris Hall. The other one is Cho. We don't count him because he don't count. Okay, he was the attacker. But if you look at this breakdown of the classroom there in Norris Hall, you'll see that their alert, or hey, something's not right, is the student he killed in the hallway. He encountered a kid in the hallway, shot him dead in the hallway. That let everybody else know there was gunfire. They went into lockdown. Room 211, there was 19 people present, 12 were killed, 6 were wounded. So you got 18 out of 19. And you look at the stats all the way down through there. 207, 13, 5 and 6. 206, 14, 10 and 2. I'd say Cho's having very good success in his attack. Then he gets to room 205, 12 present, 0 and 0. In that room was a student teacher that day. So I don't know whether he knew they were locked down and goes, that's stupid, I'm not doing that. Or he just chose to do things his own way because he barricaded the door with his body. Okay, we do not advocate barricading the door with your body because they will shoot through or under the door, just like Cho did, but by the grace of God, this kid never got hit as Cho shot through the door at him. But when Cho couldn't get in there, where'd he go? He went back to the classrooms he's already been in. There's accounts of him coming back into classrooms 2 and 3 times, just shooting into the pile of kids on the floor. Then you come over to room 204, 19 present, 2 and 3. In that classroom was a 78-year-old professor from Israel who survived the Holocaust. When he heard the gunfire, he barricaded the door with his body and told the students to jump out the window. They're 2nd story up. A lot of the injuries were from kids jumping. None of the deaths, but the injuries were from them jumping. It was about a 19-foot drop. So they had busted bones, sprained ankles, banged up knees, but they lived. He was one of the fatalities because when Cho shot through the door, he hit him. Okay? So that's where the 28 and 2 come from. The passive response, you only 28 deaths. The proactive was 2. Which number do you want to be part of? Okay, what's a better percentage for you? You look at these, there probably is only one that will leap out at you as active shooter events. That's probably going to be the one in Chardon, Ohio, right? Simply because we're from Ohio. In order for it to be classified as an active shooter event, there has to be 4 or more people shot. That's how they statistically came up with it. None of these made that number because they were all stopped by the teachers or students. Chardon High School, the football coach came in the hallway and simply yelled at TJ Lane. He threw down his gun and ran out of the building. That's all it took. He ran out and surrendered to a passing car and said, I did something very bad in the school. That's how Chardon High School ended. Okay? And you'll hear me say him, he. I don't mean to stereotype. 8% of the time, ladies, you're represented. 8% of the time, the active shooter has been a female. So you got your own little weirdo out there. University of Alabama, Huntsville, that was a female. She was denied tenure at the university. She came back with a gun and started shooting people. Okay? It's very simple. Alert, lockdown, inform, counter, invader, escape. Okay? It makes a nice little word, Alice, but the one thing you have to keep in mind is, like I said earlier, It's not a checklist. We don't have to go 1, 2, 3 or ABC. If we hear something bad going down in the office, we can take our kids and get out of the building. We don't have to wait for any other checklist, okay? Just keep that in mind. Do you guys already have lockdown here?
No, the whole thing.
I'm sorry?
We're instructed to do the whole thing. If you can safely get out, get
Good.
out.
Good.
Okay, I saw what you did. You were still a fatality. The bad guy is outside the building.
Okay.
They already know that Toby's the bad guy in advance. He's got his hood up. He's sneaking around outside the building. They announced there's somebody bad outside the building, and they evacuated. They should have locked down. Not going out there with the bad guy. There you go, Josh.
What if you saw where
He
the bad
saw
guy
the
went?
bad guy go around the
Would you
building
run?
and
But
head
he
to the
wasn't
back,
in the
so
building.
we
He
headed
couldn't
out.
get in.
Again, there's, I mean, difference of opinions. I mean, if you can, stand by, if you can guarantee,
They didn't like the fatalities.
if you can guarantee where he's going, you know, yeah, sure, you can evacuate, okay? It's all about making decisions. It's all about making informed decisions, okay? There's always going to be another side of the coin, okay? You know, if he runs the safety, they're all going to say, ooh, he's a hero. He is so smart. But if he runs out and the guy shoots him in the back as he runs out, they're going to go, wow, you should have stayed in the building. Okay, so there's always two sides to
The
the
bad
coin.
guy was not in the
For the
building.
record, the shooter ended up in the back of the building as we ended up in the front. So we did live, but the fact that we left the building while he was outside, we were counted as a fatality. So if it were real life, we would have made it, but since it was a
Right.
test, we died.
Right. Now, I mean, again, it depends. If the attacker's outside,
Her name's
actively, her name truly is Alice.
Yeah.
If he's truly trying to get into the building, I would say that you're going to go into barricade, you're going to stay in the building. But again, you're making those decisions. I'm not. It'd be easy for me from 20 miles away to say, oh, this is what you should have done. You're in the moment. You make those decisions. It's all about making educated decisions. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to, like, maybe look into the idea of when this happens and you go into this crisis situation and you have the option of barricading or leaving depending on what you think is safest for your kids. So, like, my room's a very difficult room. If we barricade and we stay in there, we're sitting ducks. There's nowhere for us to go. So, either we run, if we know the shooter's somewhere else, say we run, and some of my kids get shot because we're running, but some of them are safe. And I thought that that was the right thing to do. Is it on me as a teacher that I didn't keep them safe, even though it's part of our safety plan that I can move them outside?
It's always going to be on you, and there's always going to be armchair quarterbacks, okay? There's pending lawsuits in every active shooter event that's taking place. I mean, simply put, if I can sue McDonald's or Burger King because I got hot chocolate or hot coffee and burnt myself, if somebody dies in a school building or a public building, there's going to be lawsuits, okay? But what you're doing is you're making the best decision for you and your children at that moment, you know? Some people are going to say, oh, if you stayed, everybody would survive. But of course, there's going to be other people that say, if you stayed, everybody was going to die. I mean, it's your decision, your moment. You know, those people aren't in it. But yeah, there's going to be critics, guaranteed. Absolutely. So most places already have OW. They already have the alert and the lockdown, right? We just need to add the female portion to it, the Alice, okay? I hear a lot of ladies go, yeah, guy couldn't get it done, had to bring in a woman. I'm like, okay, that's
Amen.
fair. So, all we have to do is build on what's already there, okay? Your alert. Your alert's going to be key that something's not right, okay? It could be a gunshot. It could be law enforcement calling saying, hey, we're chasing a guy and he's outside of your building, da-da-da-da-da. But once you get that alert, you got to do your part and share that information, right? Does the people no good in the front office to know something's going on without sharing it with everybody else, correct? Everybody's got to have this information so that they can make good decisions, okay? You're going to use any means available to you. I heard you guys do have a PA, right?
Yeah.
Best way, okay? The one thing I would say is you get away from codes, okay? We don't need to be, unless you're going to be Peyton Manning and wear a thing on your sleeve and they go, code blue, and you go, okay, code blue is this, okay? Keep it simple, right? You've got to keep it simple. What happens if you have somebody new in the building? Or you have a substitute in the building, right? Looking back, what has law enforcement learned over the years? Top right is Columbine. Law enforcement's response at the time of Columbine was what was called surround and call out. They set up a perimeter and they called the SWAT team in. Okay? Random street cops weren't supposed to handle this stuff. Okay? We saw how that resulted. Okay? A lot of deaths, and a lot of those deaths were not immediate deaths. They were preventable deaths. But no one was getting in to treat the people. Okay? They were bleeding out. So then we go to Virginia Tech. Well, actually, right after Columbine's when quad training started. Quad, diamond, T formation. Columbus Police Department, their SWAT team was one of the leaders in it. They went all around the country teaching it. It was the first 4 officers on the scene had to go. You couldn't wait for an entire SWAT team. First 4 people got there, they made entry, and they had to take on the attacker. Sounds fantastic, right? What happens when 2 of you show up? Or 3?
You wait.
You wait. You become a witness to a massacre is what you become. And it's taken place, took place in Brooklyn, Ohio, in a Cracker Barrel. Gentleman showed up, found his wife and daughter in the Cracker Barrel, went in with a 12 gauge, law enforcement responded. There was 2 officers, then a 3rd finally got there. And while they were outside waiting for the 4th, begging to go in, he shot and killed both his wife, his daughter, and himself. There was nothing they could do because they were following their policy and procedures. Okay? So then we go to Virginia Tech. Response wasn't an issue. There was 2 fully armed SWAT teams on scene. He just killed 2 kids in a dormitory 800 yards away. The issue for law enforcement at Virginia Tech was Joe barricaded the doors. He chained and locked the doors. So when law enforcement got there, the first door they got to, they couldn't get in. They got, there's got to be a simpler way. They went all the way around the building. He had barricaded all the doors, came back to that original door. They shot locked it, made entry. 28 seconds later, Joe killed himself because he did not want confrontation with law enforcement. But in the meantime, he killed 30 people. Big egg on law enforcement's face. So when we teach our new response, which is called solo entry, I tell the guys, first door you come to is the door you're going in. If there is somebody in that building and those people are under attack, we're making entry through that door by whatever means we have. You can't kick it, you can't break the glass, you're driving a 3,200-pound Ram, puts cruiser through the front door, you can get in there because you have to stop the attack, right? Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook had the latest, greatest buzz-in system. What everybody's comfortable with, what everybody thinks is going to prevent. You folks have one here. You got to push the button. Somebody in the office looks at the little screen, buzzes you in, right? Is there a guarantee that if you buzz me in, I'm coming into the office? I mean, there is a sign that says report to the office. But am I going to report to the office if I'm here with bad intentions? Is a glass door going to stop me? Because it didn't at Sandy Hook. He just shot right through the glass and went in. What saved lives at Sandy Hook was that principal who sacrificed herself, but she keyed up that PA, and everybody in the building heard what was going on in her office. That was their alert, and that allowed them to barricade and lock down and get out of the building, whatever they needed to do to save themselves. And in the center there, that's also Virginia Tech. That's in the hall adjoining Norris Hall, and that is French class. Because they took the lockdown so serious while Cho's only feet away killing people, they're still teaching French. We see that all the time. Denison University went on lockdown. Turned out to be nothing. It was those hoax that went out, hit Harvard, Denison, University of Cincinnati, all in the same day. We've trained about 500 of the staff member at Denison. We haven't trained any of the technical faculty, all the professors. They, for some reason, won't take the training. So when they went on the lockdown, the people that had Alice training were going to war with the people who hadn't because they were saying, this is what we need to do. This is what we got. No, we're going to keep teaching class. They're like, no, we're not teaching class. We're leaving. This is what we're going to do. So they have to take it serious. Yeah, is it the little boy that cried wolf? Sometimes. But what about that one time? Okay, we have to take account of it. So law enforcement over many years has changed our response. Like I said, ours is now solo entry. Okay, first officer on the scene has to go. Every 5 to 15 seconds, there's another victim. So if I'm waiting and waiting for my backup to get there, how many victims are having to face their attacker, and I'm standing on the outside? So Lincoln County Sheriff's Office response is solo entry. First officer on the scene is going. Okay? If we make the lockdown announcement just with that information, how much of the building have we put in the lockdown?
The whole thing.
The whole building, right? We haven't shared any information with anybody. Lockdown, lockdown. Why are we in lockdown? Johnny break his ankle playing basketball? Or is there a guy standing in the lobby with a gun? Nobody knows. If we simply change our announcements to this, now do people know why we're in lockdown? Do they know where the affected area is? Okay, this is where you get to make that decision, because only probably what, the front quarter of this building now should be in lockdown? Everybody else should be bailing, right? They should be evacuating. We have to give them that information so they can make those educated decisions. What does lockdown do to interfere with their goals? Okay, we're right back to that hope phase, what we talked about earlier. Okay, they're there to get the new high score. We're helping them. We're putting fish in the barrel. Okay, little or no resistance. Locked doors add very little resistance. Okay, so lockdown does very little to interfere with their goals. And then here's that command, control, and convenience. Okay, this is the prison mentality. If I simply come in this door and make the announcement that I have a gun or I'm going to harm somebody, and you guys go into lockdown, you just did most of the hard work for me, right? Okay? If I walk through that door and I pull a gun out and you all stay exactly where you're at, I just captured what, 25, 30 people that quick? But if I walk through that same door and pull a gun and y'all jump up and take off running or start attacking me, what do I have control over? Does it guarantee the safety of everybody? No, but it greatly increases your chances, right? Here's how lockdown's going to end, okay? This is historically, this is stats. I already told you 86% of the time it's going to end violently. Where do you think law enforcement ranks in ending lockdown?
Last.
We're last. Absolutely last. Okay, and again, it's not because we don't want to do our jobs. We're not there. They last on average 12 minutes. By the time we get there, they're typically over. Suicides and civilian intervention are your leaders. When do you think doors should be locked? Well, apparently you guys already showed me you got the front doors locked right now, right? I think doors should be locked at all times. I think your classroom doors should be locked at all times. Okay? I get the argument that, oh, the AC doesn't work or the heat doesn't work. I got to have the doors open for circulation and ventilation. Leave the doors open. I don't care, but lock them. How do you lock this classroom door? From where?
On the outside.
Hello, right there. So in the midst of being under attack and you're right in the front of the building, you got to pop out in the hall, stick your key in, lock it, jump back in and pull the door closed, right? Wouldn't it be much more simpler if we just had the door locked in the first place? And all I have to do is slam it shut. Now I've already created one step further in my prevention. Does that make sense? In barricade, we simply want to become a harder target, right? That's the bottom line. Virginia Tech showed us that. If he can't get to me, he's going to go somewhere else because he's on a clock too, right? They know law enforcement's coming. They don't want a confrontation. In Joe's case, he chose to kill himself. Okay? Let's make them move on. Become that harder target.
If they come in and they see a classroom that looks empty, Would it be likely for them to leave it, or would they check it out anyway?
I couldn't answer that. Okay, I know a lot of times, that's why they close the doors, turn the lights off, and everybody would hide in this corner, for instance, so if they peered through that little window, it would appear empty. I can't answer that. I do know that the majority of the time, if they cannot get in a door, they move on, with the rare exception that it's more of a personal attack. It's a spouse coming to attack their estranged one, then that's who their focus is. Anybody else is collateral, but that's their focus. Okay, but as an active shooter, I couldn't answer. Okay. Is that a good barricade for a door that opens out? I'll spare my fireman joke here. I don't want to make you mad. Is that a good barricade for a door that opens out?
Yes.
You better get on that.
I mean, that's a 2x4 and a ratchet strap. Okay, I got maybe, in all honesty, probably about $15, and I can probably barricade 4 or 5 doors with what I bought. Because I'm going to go buy a 2x4, and then I'm going to go buy a pack of ratchet straps at Walmart or Home Depot or wherever, right? Okay? You're not getting through that door anytime soon. This one, you just open the door, push the chairs out. It's pretty simple, right? And when we do the hands-on, we will do barricading techniques. We will teach you simple barricading techniques, using ratchet straps, using belts. I'm using, the majority of your doors open out. Okay. But yeah, very simple barricading techniques. Now there are commercial barricades out. If you're all familiar with Licking County or Southwest Licking schools, these are the barricades that are starting the huge uproar in the States. Okay? The fire marshal's office all along has said that it's up to the individual fire inspector to run their own inspections. Okay? So that's why there's a little bit of variance maybe between Lakewood School District and Southwest Licking School District, because it's 2 different fire inspectors. Okay? Or difference between a city inspector in Newark and a city inspector in Keene. Well, the fire inspector in Southwest Licking agreed with the barricades, because technically they don't violate fire code until they're on the door. They're only going to go on the door if somebody's shooting at us. So at which point are we going to be worried about violating fire code or saving lives? Well, the fire marshal came in and said, "Oh, you've overstepped your bounds. You don't have the right, you can't do that." Okay, so now it's all worked up. Senators are involved, the governor's involved, all these people were involved. Okay, but it's these barricades in particular. And earlier when I said my best friend was a fireman, he's the one that created these. He's our tactical medic. He built those in his garage, worked on them until they were finally patented, and now they're sold all over the United States. It just can't be used in Licking County or Ohio. But I will tell you, there's many schools that have them that just aren't publicizing to the fire department that they have them. Okay? So there's kits that for doors that open out, doors that open in, or my personal favorite, more cowbell down there, and that simply goes on that actuator, and you slip that on. If that actuator can't open, the door can't open. Okay? So we will probably have demos of those here when we do the training, and somebody will be lucky enough to get those in their classroom, and I assure you, you will be somebody that doesn't get shot. The others may get shot. I don't know, but we have not been able to defeat these barricades. That's, again, I'm biased because my buddy built them, also because we've done the research and development on them. Okay? So we barricade, and there's no guarantees that they won't get through our barricade. So we barricade and they get through. Can we exit? Absolutely we can. Just like those little children did at Sandy Hook. What inside our classroom can become a weapon?
Everything.
Absolutely everything. Desks, chairs, coffee mugs. I don't care if it's just a ream of paper. If you're running at them and you fire that ream of paper at them and it scatters everywhere, that's going to divide their attention, right? We want to overload their circuits as we're bailing, right? So anything and everything can now become a weapon. Talk about having a go bucket, and then after about a year we added a cinch sack, okay? A go bucket, I want you to have like a 5-gallon bucket that you would get. And what you're going to put in there, I want a hard roster of your students. I also want a small list of phone numbers, because I know everybody has a cell phone. Most people have a smartphone, which have made us completely dumb. Okay, who dials phone numbers anymore? I call my mother every morning and I go, Mom. And if she doesn't answer, I go, damn it, Mom mobile. Okay? If I don't have my phone, I don't have phone numbers, right? You don't need all 496 contacts in your phone. You just need a 3x5 index card with the important ones, okay? People you work with, people are going to want to know, did you get out of the building? Where are you? Are you safe, right? Maybe your spouse's or your loved one's work phone number that you don't call all the time, so that you call and let them know you're okay, okay? Also want you to have a shower curtain. Why do you want to have a shower curtain?
If it's raining?
No, it's not raining. Could be. I've heard that. Okay? But you have a bathroom in your classroom? You are lucky. Does everybody have a bathroom in your classroom? Okay. You're the envy of the world right now. But if you don't have a classroom and you're in your classroom barricaded in place with, say, 15 or 20 kids, does that go bucket now have a new meaning? Okay? And if we're going to have to use that go bucket, I want you to have a shower curtain so that you can rig up some type of privacy, right? So don't go to Walmart, buy that 99-cent clear shower curtain. That's kind of defeating the purpose, okay? But we want to be able to give a little bit of privacy, okay? Because if you barricade in place, law enforcement's coming, but just depending upon where you are in the building is how quick we're going to get to you. If we come through these front doors and you're on the second or third level, it's going to take a while for us to get there because we're going to clear this entire level first, then we're going to go up to the second level and then keep working our way up. Okay? It's called a slow building search, and it will be slow. You may be barricaded for 4 hours. You may be barricaded for 8 hours. Okay? So you may have to call upon that go bucket. I want you to have some medical supplies. Okay? I'm not going to cover that portion. When we do the hands-on, you will have a whole medical segment with Troy Lowe, our tactical medic. And I want you to have a small staple of water and food. Okay? A case of water and a giant box of peanut butter crackers would suffice, right? Less than $10. That way, if you're barricaded in place and everybody starts getting hungry, you got something to get them over. Unless you guys all want to bring your tactical cheese plates and bananas that you have today. What would you want in your bucket? If you're putting your go bucket together, what do you want to put in it? It's your bucket.
Toilet paper.
I said my 9mm.
Toilet paper. I heard more problems on it. Toilet paper. Okay. But toilet paper, yeah. What? Somebody said something else? Wipes. I've heard teachers say colored book and crayons. Okay. I've heard people say deck of cards. I've heard people say cell phone charger. I've heard flashlight. The one I want to hear is bricks, baseballs, paperweights. Okay? You can't bring your 9mm into school because it's a weapon. Okay, but nothing says you can't have like a real nice Ohio State brick, painted up, says OSU National Champions, and it's a paperweight, right? There's a teacher in Cleveland that has 23 paperweights on her desk. She has 22 students plus her. Well, it's a paperweight, right? You probably just recently seen in the news that there's been schools that are doing food pantry drives. Everybody brings in cans of soup and canned goods. And the schools won't hold on to them all year long during the school year. And then at the end of the school year, they're going to donate them to the food pantry. Yes, sir.
How do you, does law enforcement feel about teachers that are armed? And if you're going to cover that, some other point you can go on, but concealed carry.
We don't necessarily cover that, but I personally, I'm against it. Okay, simply because there's people that should be teachers. There's people that should be firemen. There should be people that be cops. There should be ditch dippers, right? Everybody has their role, okay? In order to have a concealed carry, what do you have to take? 4 hour, 8 hour? Okay.
Ask how many people in here have.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm not totally against that, but what I'm getting at is the weapon retention aspect of it, okay? Can you protect your weapon from somebody taking it from you right off of your body? Okay, that's one of the aspects. Also, if you're a concealed carry teacher, you just took yourself out of the role of a teacher in many aspects, because if two kids are simply fighting, if you intervene, you just introduced a gun to that fight. Because everywhere I go, there's a gun.
Yeah.
And what I tell the new recruits is it belongs to the first person that gets it. Okay, it's on my hip, but I mean, our holsters have been ripped clean from our bodies. Okay, so that's my worry, is the weapon retention portion of it. My second worry is I get the report that it's a 30-year-old male with a handgun in school, and I come in and he's standing there with a gun. That's it. I may shoot him, and he may be trying to do good, but I just killed him because I'm armed with the information that 30-year-old male with a gun in school. Okay? So, other people have said, oh, we'll keep him in the principal's office in the safe. Well, that's awesome when you're other end of the building at the cafeteria when it hits the fan, right? So, there are some schools in Central Ohio that do have armed people in their schools. There's one in Muskingum County. Within their district, I think it's either 11 or 13 people are carrying at any given time, and nobody allegedly knows who they are. Okay? That's the decision that they made as a district. So, but I personally are against it for those reasons. Okay? Again, not going to cover the first aid portion of it. You'll get that with Medic Low. He will talk to you about impromptu medicine. He will talk to you about improvised medicine with items in your classroom. He will show you commercial kits. He will show you homemade kits to stop the bleeding. Because what we found out in law enforcement and in the military is a lot of our deaths are preventable deaths. But we're getting shot in the arm and we're bleeding out, or we're getting shot in the leg and bleeding out. Okay? Because the fire department is not coming into this scene until we assure them that it is safe. How long is it going to take us to clear this building and render it safe? It's going to take some time, and the fire department's not coming in. They're starting to come around to what they're calling Rescue Task Force, and they're starting to arm some of the paramedics that are volunteering to wear ballistic armor and shields and everything else and come up under guard of law enforcement into the buildings, but that's a new concept that's just now starting to come around. Okay, so you need to be taught self-aid and buddy aid. Okay, you need to be able to save your life and the life of your students or fellow worker. Troy has taught it at our office for years now, and actually the shooting of the Newark police officer who got shot in the arm a few months back, one of our officers was on the scene, snatched him up, put a tourniquet on, and probably helped contribute to saving his life. Okay, he took a .357 round into his elbow and come out the other side of his arm. He is definitely going to bleed. Okay. The informed portion of this is we have to get that information out as quickly as possible. Okay. I know you have a PA. Do you have cameras?
Yes.
There's access to the cameras near the PA.
Not, okay, only certain people have access to it.
Okay. Well, if somebody has access to the cameras and access to the PA, they can become a play-by-play announcer right now. And they can tell everybody in the building where the shooter is or the attacker is, what they're wearing, probably tell them their name, because in a school setting, about 95% of the time that person is known to the school. Okay, whether it's a former employee, former student, disgruntled parent, whatever the case may be. In the public sector or just your run-of-the-mill, it's usually 80% of the time they're familiar with the territory. But if you have access, you have to get this information out. Okay, if we know it's John Smith, we need to be telling people it's John Smith. Or we at least got to tell them he's got a red hoodie on and blue jeans. And he's in hallway 100. Or your hallway's numbered or lettered or anything like that. Okay, that would be one of the recommendations I make is, so when we make a reference, everybody may know this is the main hallway or the admin hallway. Whatever it's known by, you need to get that out so everybody knows. You know, he's in hallway 100 or hallway A, so that people know exactly what we're talking about. If you've seen this awareness test, please keep it to yourself.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
many passes?
13.
12, 13, 14. I heard somebody giggle. Who giggled?
I did.
What'd you giggle about?
I lost track.
You all, okay. 13's the right number, but did anybody see anything else?
The guy.
The gorilla?
The gorilla. Nobody else saw the gorilla?
Let's
watch it again.
How many passes does the team in white make?
Somewhere around there.
Oh my God.
I can't see that pass.
He's even moonwalk.
Did everybody see that? Okay.
I thought it was a bear.
Yeah, it was a moonwalking bear, but they've done it with gorillas and they've done it with everything else, okay? I chose to use that video because that reinforces the part that if they breach us and start making injury, we can flee without being harmed, okay? Because again, if my attention's over here, I'm not paying attention to everything else going on in the room, right? Okay? That's how those children at Sandy Hook were able to run out of that victim classroom without getting harmed, okay? We talked about this earlier, about their hit and kill rates versus law enforcement. Okay? Again, it's not because they're better shots, it's because one, they want to hit at anything and everything, right? They're not worried about their accuracy, they're just going to go bang, 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 bang. Additionally, everybody's being passive and huddled in a corner, and it's again just shooting fish in a barrel. Okay? That's why their hit and kill rates are so high. Back up. But is it possible to interrupt their shooting skills?
Sure.
Okay. Who is a hunter in here?
Alice.
Alice. All right, Alice.
Yeah.
Okay, do you deer hunt?
Yes.
Okay.
She wants everything.
She hunts everything. Okay. So Alice, you get up super early in the morning. You sneak out in the woods after you like de-scent yourself and smear your stuff with all kinds of. I don't hunt. I hunt at Walmart. I score every time. But you get up in your tree stand, right? And you probably snuck out a little early because I know you, Alice. So the sun's not quite up. So you're sitting there and you got your gun, or do you bow hunt?
She does both.
Okay. Wow. I won't make you mad, I'm sorry. But you get out there in the woods, and as soon as that sun comes up and that deer comes through, and you see that prize buck, does it just stop and say, shoot me, Alice?
No.
They make you work a little bit, right? Okay. In order to make an accurate shot, you have to have what? Sight picture, sight alignment, okay, steady shooting platform, good breath control, trigger squeeze, trigger control. You got to have multiple things, okay? So for some reason, this monster buck does just lock up. He freezes right in front of your deer stand.
Then I get both fingers.
Oh, she's and right as Alice draws down on it, all the other critters in the forest turn on Alice. Okay? They're all throwing pine cones and walnuts and acorns and anything and everything they can. They throw them at Alice. Minus your buck fever, how accurate is that shot going to be?
It's terrible.
Yeah, because what's your natural reaction? If somebody throws something at your head, what is your natural reaction? You're going to protect yourself, right? Okay, so when we talk about countering techniques, that's what we're talking about, okay? It's very easy to disrupt somebody's shooting platform, okay? If you're going to take a shot at me and I'm right in front of you.
Pretty easy.
A big target, right? You can say it, right? Big target. Okay, I know. Weren't you a fireman? I was. You had your shot, buddy. So I'm right in front of you. I present a huge target for him. Okay? But if I take off running and run away from him, what happens as I run away? That target starts getting smaller and smaller, requiring more and more skill level to make that accurate shot. Okay? So we can disrupt somebody's shooting platform. All right? Simply adding noise, movement, distance, and distraction would greatly increase our chances. Okay? Noise is an incredible distractor, right? Okay? I mean, law enforcement uses it when we throw flashbangs into a house, that loud bang and flash a light. It's called a distraction device. A lot of people want to call it a grenade. It's not a grenade, it's a distraction device, okay? That's to gain valuable time for us and disorientate them, right? That's why when you see somebody on the foul line, it's all hush-hush, and right, somebody's getting ready to shoot that shot, you always got some yahoo who goes, ah!
Yeah.
They're trying to disrupt that person's concentration, okay? Noise, movement, distance, and distractions, okay? Noise, we've explained, movement is simple. We're just getting up and going somewhere, right? We're not staying stagnant. Hopefully we're moving towards an exit. Okay, distance is what we just did. Okay, creating that distance requiring more skill. What do you think the distractions are?
Throwing stuff?
This is where we're throwing stuff. We're throwing anything and everything we can. We're going to put all that together, and this greatly increases your chances of survival. When we go into the hands-on, and we'll supply the shooter, okay? We found out a few years ago we don't take shooters out of the crowd anymore. One, it put too many people on the watch list. And two, we found out who was either the boss or who was unliked, because they would shoot one person 17 times and not touch another person. Okay, so we'll supply the shooter. But you'll see when we come in and do our first scenario, our shooters 80, 90% every time. And then simply throwing this in, we cut it down to 20 or 30%, if not lower, just like that. And this is a trained SWAT operator. He knows how to shoot a gun. He knows you're going to be throwing stuff at him. He knows you're going to be throwing Nerf balls at him. Okay, because we're not going to let you throw books and chairs and desks and stuff at our guy. You're going to throw these little squishy Nerf balls. And still, his natural reaction is to protect his head, right? It's protect his body. So you can greatly increase your chances of survival simply by adding noise, movement, distance, and distraction. Has anybody heard of the OODA loop? OODA loop was developed by Colonel John Boyd of the Air Force during the Korean War. Basically what was happening was the American fighter pilots were getting their butt kicked by inferior pilots in inferior planes simply because they could anticipate everything we were going to do because we'd written all the textbooks on air-to-air combat. So they read them and they could anticipate what we were going to do. Colonel Boyd came up with the OODA loop, and simply by changing one thing in what is expected of you, you throw everything else out of whack, right? And it's called a loop because it's continuous, okay? You're going to observe something, you're going to orientate to it, you're going to make a decision, and you're going to act. And it's a continuous loop, okay? We do this probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of times a day. You don't even realize we're OODA looping. Okay, on your way to in here today, you're driving. You come up to a traffic light. You recognize it, it's starting to change. It's going from green to yellow, right? So you see it, you got to make a decision, and you have to make an act. Okay, whether you're going to smash on the gas and blow through it and call it pink, or you're actually going to stop. Okay? At that same traffic light you're at, maybe you get the green light now and you're starting to pull away, and somebody OODA loops through on the other side, and now you have to make a decision. Do I slam on the brakes to avoid the collision? Do I steer away? We're doing this constantly. Okay? But if we can cause somebody to change one expected thing, we throw off their OODA loop. If I come through that door and I yell, everybody get on the ground, and I pull my gun, and you all turn around and start throwing crap at me, you just jacked up my OODA loop, I'm telling you right now, because you're not doing what I expected you to do. Okay? So that's what we want to do. We want to engage yours and disrupt their OODA loops. I'm going to skip through this video a little bit because this guy says the same story like 6 times.
This is what you guys do in my videos.
Yeah.
Look on me.
That whole brain stuff, I did the whole series, Nate.
The only reason I did this is because we're running short on
They're
time.
not being rude to you, they're being rude to me.
Oh, I assure you, they can't be rude to me.
When I saw Cookie's son, he was standing right there. Officer Bowman was right there. He was only about a foot. That's when he dropped his placard and immediately shot Officer Bowman. I then went underneath the DS. I heard shots, then I saw Mayor Swoboda walking this way, and I saw him fall, and I saw him bleeding in the head. He was laying right there. I then later on heard shots over this way, which would have been again to my right, and they sounded like they were getting closer to me, so I got up and ran this way. Kenyo's body was right there, and Bob's body was still in the chair. Ran here, hoping to get to the door. When I got to about here, Cookie Thornton had come from here and was right there. And that's where I threw the chair at him, and hit him with the chair, and then threw another chair at him. And then I ran back this way, throwing chairs behind me as I went, hoping to block him, hoping that I was going to go through a doorway that was here. That's the door that appeared to be closed. So then I started going this way, thinking I might head for that door. That's when I looked back, when I was about here, and I looked back and I saw that he had stumbled and fallen over Kenyo's body, I believe. So then I ran. I decided to go this way out the front door. The steps were right here. After I got out the door, the police officers were coming out the
Okay, I skipped through the beginning of that because he tells that same story in a little more detail, but then he shows the drawing of it there. That diagram, what did that look like? Did we watch a video earlier?
Yeah.
Kind of looked like that Florida school board shooting.
Yeah. Same thing.
The only difference here is this guy, did he look like a superhuman or anything? Looked like an average Joe, right? Yeah. So, he's on that panel, just like those other guys were on the school board, and Cookie Thornton comes in, the first person he kills is the cop, sitting in the chair, working the board meeting. He just walks up, shoots him right in the chair, and he starts shooting people. Then he starts shooting people on the panel. And this guy's sitting there, and he's like, okay, just shot him, he shot him, he's coming for me. And he got up and he ran, right? He got up and ran, and Cookie started chasing him. And as he's running towards the back to try to exit, Cookie cuts him off. And what did he say he did? Picked up a chair and hit him. Then he picked up another chair and hit him again, and he's throwing chairs at him now as he's running away from Cookie. If I had any skills at editing this stuff, I'd put in the Rocky theme right there. Okay, because that's what I hear every time. This guy's going to survive, right? And as he's running away and Cookie's now chasing him, Cookie trips and falls over somebody else he's already killed and allows him to flee out the front doors, right? So he created his own breaks. Now he made a good statement there. He showed up in the upper right corner there was a door, and he thought, I'm going to run and go out that door, just like that Florida school board setting. But he made a statement that says, I didn't know if I could get out that door. I didn't know it was locked. Didn't know if I could open it. I don't know if he realized what he was doing right there in that moment, but he was realizing that when we get panicked and we get into a heightened state, we lose our fine motor skills. Okay? You think about those horror movies again. I'm sorry, I'm a product of the 80s. You go back and you think of Jason and Michael Myers and all those guys. There's always that one scene where you've gotten away and you get to your car, and all you got to do is get in the car, and you're sitting there, just start the car, good golly. And they're like, That's the only part in the whole stinking movie that's real, folks, okay? That's real, because when we get scared, we lose our fine motor skills, okay? Credit to the fire department. They learned this a long time ago. That's why we have panic bars and push bars on all exit doors. It's because years ago, when the fire department would go to a large-scale fire, where'd they find all the dead people? At the door, because they couldn't get out. They didn't know how to manipulate the door handles or turn the locks. So the fire department, being much smarter than law enforcement, not really, if they scored a couple more points, they'd have got a gun. But, so he realizes this in the midst of all this, like, I don't know if I can get out this door, and he changes course and he runs out another door, okay? But he realized that we lose our fine motor skills. When we go into the hands-on portions of this, okay, you're going to be taught the swarm technique, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's like a swarm of bees. We're just going to try to simply overpower them with manpower, okay? Talk about removing and securing the weapon in your contact with law enforcement, all right? Like I said, law enforcement's coming, okay? We're going to respond. It's just a matter of when we get here. And when we get here, okay, we may be in uniform, we may be in plain clothes, maybe some of our drug detectives. If you've ever seen them, they look nothing like a cop, okay? But all of them's going to have a badge or something that says sheriff's office or police, and they're going to be the ones running into the building, just kind of like the firemen do when there's a fire, okay? But keep in mind, if it's still active, we're not stopping and talking to people. We're not going to be stopping and trying to treat injured. Every 5 to 15 seconds, there's another victim. We've got one goal. We've got to go in and stop the attack. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to be shouting, what's he look like, or where are they at, what are they wearing, that type of stuff. But we can't answer questions. We can't slow down. We've got to get in and neutralize the situation.
This might be the stupidest idea, but don't say anything.
Here we go.
Just continue talking.
Just go ahead.
You know, a high-powered, you know, you guys that play with your kids, like a real high-powered water gun that just, I've about been knocked over by water guns before. You know what I'm talking about? The long ones? Not the little ones. Like a bazooka. Like a bazooka. What if we had that in every class, and instead of water, we had olive oil in it? And then
we have a salad?
Yeah, we look like tossed salad.
Spray the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm saying our students would turn them on us.
If you're going to do that.
Becky, did you run out of your medicine?
Okay. There's always people trying to think outside of the box, so I'll certainly give you credit for trying to think outside of the box. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I heard a great suggestion out of Alice, of course. She suggested wasp and hornet spray. Okay? Again, when we get back into schools, okay, they don't want us to have weapons, okay? They don't want the teachers carrying tasers. They don't want the teachers carrying mace, okay? But nothing says that you don't have a hornet problem in your classroom,
Yeah,
right?
we even have hornet nests.
So, and most of that spray is actually a stream 15, 20 feet away. Now, I've never been sprayed in the face by a raid or anything like that, but I can just imagine it probably doesn't feel too well, okay? But that's always an option, okay? He's going to go get some.
It works.
Keep it out of reach of yours.
When we talk about the shooter's weapon, okay, we already told you that civilian intervention, which means he's going to get overpowered, okay, or suicides, two of the resolutions, okay, two of the more common resolutions. So the shooter goes down by one of the other resolutions, and you end up with their weapon. Should you be handling it?
No, put it
Put it over your head.
You guys cheat or something? How'd you guys figure this out?
We did.
The trash can.
We had a partial Alice training.
Yeah, a few years ago.
That's the correct answer, okay? We don't want you really handling it too much, okay? I know we say put it in the trash can or whatever. We want you to get out of your hands because we don't want you having it when we come through the door, okay? If you don't have a trash can, we simply want you to throw it in the corner, cover it with everything. And the main thing is somebody needs to be getting on the phone if you have one and telling law enforcement, calling 911 and saying, we've got the shooter, we've got the gun, we're in room 101, 102, whatever the case may be, because that's going to speed up our response to that room. The first officers on scene should be coming to that room to take over for you.
Okay, a dumb question. Okay, so we knocked the guy out.
Croutons I'm sorry.
So, you know, somehow we knock him out and he trips and hits his head or something.
Probably
but
from
he's
your olive
not
oil,
dead.
Okay.
The gun is on the floor. I
Yeah.
got all these kids. I put the gun in the trash can. I take the gun like this and take the kids and run. I don't leave the gun in the room.
Correct. You are
Correct.
absolutely right. Okay.
Right.
I thought you were going in a different direction. Because, and I'll go ahead and
shoot him?
I'll shoot him.
that's the question we get. We've got his gun. Can I now shoot
Hey,
him?
we got a lot of people here who shoot.
Oh, those.
Okay. I can't answer that question. Okay. You're going to have to answer that question days, weeks, months later when you go to
I
court.
can shoot his leg at least.
Okay.
Boy, man, this guy's got a
Hey, I the shooter for your training is right there.
This is gonna be great, Becky.
But we do get that question of can we shoot him, okay? You've got to count self-defense versus assassination, okay?
Well, it's a leg.
What's that? Okay. If you're going to shoot him, you bought the whole ticket, sister. Okay, ain't no good shooting him in the leg.
Really?
Why do you think law
You haven't
enforcement
had
shoots to
concealed
neutralize?
carry class.
Okay? We shoot to neutralize because years and years ago, Munich, 72, they had snipers take out the guy, the terrorist, and they shot to neutralize because they wanted to persecute him. Dude pulled a grenade, rolled it in, blew everybody up anyways.
No.
We shoot to neutralize. We shoot till the threat is gone. Okay? That's how I'm doing it. Okay? Now, if I happen to shoot them in the leg, that's where they get shot, but that's not what I'm aiming for. Okay? But what I want to drive at is self-defense versus assassination. Okay? Now, if you get the gun and they're still fighting with you, that you can probably argue that one. If they're unconscious on the ground because they slipped on something or got hit in the head with a book, and then you now shoot them, you're probably going to be in prison.
Just say
Okay.
Blake to back you.
Really?
Just
You guys have backed
document,
me
we'll
up.
back you up.
Again, it's your story. It's all you painted.
Why?
Okay? And again, you got to be able to articulate it. There you go. There you go.
What's happened, Becky? Oh, geez.
All right. Talk about the evacuation portion of this, okay?
Can I real quick? I'm sorry. Should you do anything to like check to make sure he doesn't have any other weapon?
Yes.
Any other weapons?
Absolutely. And we cover that in the sworn portion, okay? But she's exactly right. More times than not, they have multiple weapons. Okay, like I told you, they take bullets, knives, everything else, maybe even explosives on them. Okay, if we get control of them, we want to check them. If they got a book bag, backpack, we want to separate them from that. Okay, because what if they do get free? They do wiggle out, and they've got more weapons. So you're exactly right. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Hey, I've heard that before. I'm going to duct tape them up. Absolutely. Okay. Okay, one of the questions we get a lot when we talk about the evacuation is, what if there's more than one shooter? Okay, what if one's outside and one's inside? All I can tell you that is historically that has never happened. Okay, that number of 2% is now down to probably under 1% because we've actually had an increase in active shooter events by single persons, lowering the number.
I think it was Jonesboro, Arkansas, where the two kids pulled the fire alarm. Is that like a rare event to have somebody approach it in that form, or?
That was even before Columbine, but yes.
Yeah.
That was one way of doing it. That's actually been repeated again, but not as big as fanfare, because what would you do if you run in the parking lot and somebody's shooting in the parking lot? I'm going back inside. Okay. So, but yes, that's been repeated again. Okay. And that's one of the incidents I was going to speak on is, there's only been 2 documented incidents, and they never separated. Jonesboro, Arkansas, where the 11-year-old and the 13-year-old pulled the fire alarm, went out, had their own little sniper nest, and shot the kids as they came out, and Klebold and Harris. And in both cases, they never separated. Okay? So when you're worried about one being inside, one being outside, it could happen tomorrow. I don't know. But historically, it has never happened. Okay? Talk about not using your car to evacuate. Why do you think that is? Traffic jam, Freddy Krueger hands, okay? And also, if we're running through the parking lot, those vehicles are giving us some form of protection, right? Okay, they're giving us some cover and concealment. Okay, but most importantly is if you're all trying to get out of the parking lot, we're trying to get in the parking lot, it's not going to work, okay? And we're talking about reunification points. What are yours?
Church.
Excuse me. That evacuation provides us with, we want to get out, right? We don't need to stick around here. Bad things are happening here. We have the authority. We're going to evacuate. It removes as many victims from here as possible, right? It also removes the need for your friends and your family to come here. Because if there's actually an active attack here, this is now a crime scene and nobody's coming in here, okay? It may be days or weeks before this building even reopens, so why are we going to have your friends and family come here? Your friends and family need to know where to respond to. One of the pushes that we get is, What if they know the escape route, they know where we're going, and they're going to go over there and resume the attack? Okay? The first wave of law enforcement's coming here. The next wave's going there, along with fire department, EMS, everybody else, because we've got to secure that scene. Okay? Again, can I guarantee that they're not going to hit and run here and run over to the church? I can't guarantee it, but if they were to show up at the church, what would we do? We wouldn't stick around at the church either, right? We would possibly come back over here, correct? Okay? And evacuation falls our natural response.
So your house, Mike.
We're going to Cheryl's house.
Whether it's planned or not, evacuation is going to happen. Okay, just like a Columbine. Okay, when the parent or when the staff member quit giving them directions, they fled. Okay, so we want to control where they're going, right? We don't want to make this up on the fly. So we have to establish that rally point, reunification point, what you folks have done. Okay, you already know where it's at. You know who should be there. Do you have anything pre-staged over there?
They have a list of the contact numbers and the roster of the kids, and it's right beside the firehouse.
Okay. Now, is that roster updated
They're
daily?
also a shelter location. They've got cots and food and everything.
And that's one of the recommendations we make is to find a church because most of them are already Red Cross certified. So you're opening yourself up to those other things. So you guys are well on your way. Okay? The obvious is going to be police and fire. We're going to call on the street department, the water department, utility companies, anybody we can, because we're going to lock down that area because now we have to control who's coming and who's going. Okay? Because you have to keep in mind, there's going to be those many, many joyous reunions with parents coming to pick up their children. There may be that somber place too, right? And we want to control and make sure that Johnny goes with Johnny's dad, okay, and we control everything. So we're going to call on anybody and everybody we can to come in and shut down these intersections and control them for us so we can control who's coming and going. Again, you guys are already taking it up and going to see one of the churches, okay? And you may reach out to the area businesses as well, okay? You start putting together your go buckets. You may reach out to Lowe's or Home Depot. That's great publicity for them. Plus that bucket's either going to be blue and say Lowe's or it's going to be orange and say Home Depot. That's free advertising for them, right? A lot of the schools that we've talked to have went to organizations and said, hey, this is what we're trying to do, and they make cash donations or in-kind donations to them. So you certainly reach out to the businesses. And also some businesses, maybe it's taking place there and they're going to run to the school for help, right? You have to keep that in mind. It doesn't just happen in schools. Okay, we already talked about this briefly. She made the question, you know, if I run out of the classroom and, you know, half of us make it and half of us don't, am I going to get sued? Okay, you're going to get sued. There's a lawsuit every time. My cell phone right now is set up that anytime a story with the words active and shooter or school and shooter runs across the internet, they email me the story, which my phone is going off nonstop with stories. Okay. Some of it's about stuff I don't care about, like a Maryland basketball championship where the kid hit the high school shot to win it for his school, but it's those buzzwords. But the latest ones I'm getting are still coming out of Chardon High School, and it's lawsuits, okay, where everybody's suing everybody, and that's been years ago, okay? So there's going to be lawsuits. But do you want to say, hey, we told them to go into hope phase? Or do you want to be able to say, we let them make the decisions that best suited them in that moment? They made those decisions based on the information they have. I think that second choice is a much better defense, don't you? And we'll wind it up with this. Quote President Roosevelt. It simply comes down to, folks, we have to do something. We have to act. That we have to actively defend ourselves and our students. There's my contact information if you would need anything. Any questions, concerns, comments? We will be getting together and scheduling another date to come out and actually do the hands-on and the medical training. I couldn't tell you. I know she gave me 3 dates. One, we're already tied up with training for the SWAT team.